Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews. It's your hosts Iain and Gary.
Hello.
And today we're joined by Geoff.
Hello.
And today we're going to review a movie that came out in 1989 and directed by Brian De Palma, and that is Casualties of War. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Michael J. Fox, who's playing Private Erickson, and he is assigned to Sergeant Reserve's squad, played by Sean Penn. They are given the mission to scout out a known VC patrol line, but along the way, Sean Penn decides to kidnap a young village girl for the process of raping along the way to try and boost morale. Michael J. Fox takes it upon himself to try and bring these men to justice, but with the backdrop of the Vietnam War, a lot of the commanding officers in the army try to push it under the carpet, and Michael J. Fox tries to bring it to light.
This, for a war movie, is thematically very dark. This is a movie that doesn't have the bravado of perhaps Full Metal Jacket or Platoon. This is a movie that is essentially dealing with premeditated rape, actual rape, and these soldiers dealing with the repercussions of what they've done, whether they moralistically feel like they've committed a crime or not. This is coming from director Brian De Palma, who has quite a rich history in cinema. You could compare him perhaps to Oliver Stone or some of the other great directors out there, because obviously you're going to compare this film with other Vietnam War movies. And I have to say straight away that this, for me, is not essentially a war movie. This is very much a war drama, and De Palma is very good at working within mixed genres of films, because we've seen him do science fiction, we've seen him do gangster movies, and we've seen him do Stephen King's adaptation of Carrie, which for me is actually my favourite De Palma movie. So we've already seen that he is a fantastic talent, and with this film we get to see him exploring an actual true event that did occur during the Vietnam War, which he wanted to make the movie about almost straight after the incident was printed. But of course, the Vietnam War was still happening at this time, so the movie was put on hold, and obviously he didn't really have the career to sort of be able to dictate to the studios, I'm going to make this movie. So this film actually came out on the back end of him having this successful career and coming out after all these other successful war movies.
Yeah, unlike Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, Platoon, Casualties of War isn't saturated with these massive, huge battles with large scale, soldiers going up against each other. There's barely 3 events in the film where a battle does occur. It really focuses mainly on Michael J. Fox, Sean Penn, and the 3 other guys in the squad, and it's just such a brilliant portrayal of mainly their acting ability. I mean, Sean Penn, obviously, we know now is an amazing actor, but back then his portrayal of Meserve is just outstanding. He has this crazy look in his eye.
You think he down, man. You buku think he down.
He can be calm one minute and then ready to fuck you over the next minute, and backed up with, say, Clark and Hatcher and Diaz as well. You really get this feeling that Erickson is just forced into this position and has to kind of stand by and be ready to do something, but unable to actually do it.
It's the 20th century, man. Jesus, we're supposed to be here to help these people.
Yeah, this film isn't action-packed, and you would think that a Vietnam War movie would need big battles and it would need that kind of the big gunfights. But actually this film is all the better for that. First of all, it's brilliantly cast. You would not think Michael J. Fox would be brilliant to cast as a soldier.
Marty McFly.
Yeah, Marty McFly as a soldier, no way. But it will surprise you. The fact remains is that he's actually brilliantly cast. And Sean Penn also, I've got to say, all 5 actors in the company perform fantastically. There are nuances that come out about the qualities of their character that the actors portray right out the gate from the moment the film starts. But one of the things that really is brilliant about this film is that the kind of the bolshy, like, bravado of the average American Vietnam soldier comes through in the way that these characters act.
Now, I want nothing but charmed people around me on this one, gentlemen, so bring your good luck stuff.
Like this, Sarge?
Does it feel lucky?
Looks lucky.
Not in a soundtrack that is accompanied by people going woohoo, shooting their guns, but you get the real sense that there is a loss of naivety through these characters in just a few key scenes in the film, which are brilliantly contrasted, because this film is able to switch from a really kind of happy-go-lucky, bright outlook to sudden, very distraught and impacting events with no warning. You know, it just goes bosh. Suddenly this thing happens, and the way that the actors present these characters dealing with it really comes through, that there is this loss of naivety, and that also what comes through is that this group, this company of men that are forced together by their association in the American military, that these are just, there's a very human side to this film.
Yeah.
And it portrays the evolution of their character whilst they've been put in these circumstances very, very cleverly, with subtlety and nuance that doesn't come out through in many other films. One of my favourite Vietnam films is Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. And Stanley Kubrick tries to portray all kinds of subtleties in that film, and yet I would argue that Casualties of War does more to bring out the very same points that Kubrick tries to bring out in Full Metal Jacket, but does it with less, trying to do less, and therefore it does more.
It sure feels like something, man. It feels bad, Sarge. It ain't nothing, man. Erickson. Sarge says I'm gonna be okay, man.
Oh, yeah. No sweat, Brownie.
So with Michael J. Fox, he starts off as the cherry. You know, he's only been there for a few days, a few weeks, and he's there in the villages. He's helping them, like, you know, sow their seeds and work with their cows. And he's like a child watching all the rest of them walk around, telling them, look, you know, you have to listen to what we say, or you're going to end up, you know, dead. But then as the film progresses, you start to realize that Michael J. Erickson, with all the horrors that he's seeing, is starting to realize that they're not there just to help and kill the enemy. They're supposed to be helping and rebuild what they're actually helping destroy at the same times when they're having these big battles.
It's really only Michael J. Fox's character that gets it.
Yeah.
The other four are like, yeah, boo, 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 boo. And we're just going to be like, for our American soldiers. And then because, like, one of their mates dies, they're all like, God, kill the goddamn gooks, you know? Whereas Michael J. Fox realizes that there is a difference between VC and the average Vietnamese. And, like, he starts out and he doesn't want to be rude to some of the children that come up to give him stuff. So instantly they very cleverly in scenes set precedents which allow you windows into these characters and the contrasts between them. And Michael J. Fox's character stands out straight away, that he's a bit different. He's thinking differently to the other guys. He's got a moral underpinning that the other four in the company don't have.
And that's what kind of segregates him from the rest of the group.
Yeah.
Once the leader of the group has made this decision as to what they're going to do, and that is to go and abduct this girl, to take her on patrol with them, and to rape her so that they can have some fun whilst they're working. And Michael J. Fox is what you could argue is the only moralistically aligned character in this film, or because it's based on real events, the actual person was moralistically attuned to what was right and wrong.
Oh, what's the matter? Don't you like girls? Haven't you got a pair? Is that your problem?
What is going on here, Sarge?
Erickson here don't want to ball the dink.
How come?
I don't know.
He's a chicken shit.
Is that it? Is that your problem, Erickson? Huh?
Yeah.
Even though you're in a war-torn country, And so whilst this group is kind of internally, there's some of the characters are, you've got John C. Reilly and John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
They're kind of, you've got John C. Reilly. This is his first ever movie, and unfortunately, I'm not his greatest fan. I think a lot of his work is very childish and very slapstick. And his first appearance in film is almost that character, because he does play quite a mental, I would say he's mentally handicapped soldier.
Yeah.
And he's constantly almost getting them into trouble, and he almost doesn't understand right and wrong. And then you have John Leguizamo, who is he's kind of also afraid of his superior officers.
Yeah.
He's kind of afraid to say anything out of tune. And so when Michael J. Fox and him are talking, he's like, well, you'll back me up. You'll back me up. And he's like, yeah, I will, because what you're saying is right. And then when the time comes, he kind of backs down. And so throughout the film, you've got this long, drawing out period where Michael J. Fox becomes more and more secluded from the group, to the point where it's like, yeah, you go on point. Yeah, you go and take the risks now, because we're going to, watch your back, because we're going to kill you if you try talking out of place.
Yeah.
And so there is what you could argue is some very fantastic horror elements brought into that, because Michael J. Fox's character, he's really naive, and he's not really sure how to act in this situation, or who to go to try and put a stop to this. And the film really follows him trying to bring justice to the events that do unfold in this film.
The Army calls this a weapon, but it ain't. This is a weapon. This is a gun. This is for fighting. This is for fun.
And it's very harrowing to watch, and it is a very uncomfortable film to watch as well.
I just love it. Obviously, once they have kidnapped the girl and they have taken her out on this patrol, you start to realize that Michael J. Fox, like you said, is being forced outside. They don't care what happens to him anymore. But you're wanting him to survive. You're wanting him to get to the end, and then it makes it
more
even
than that,
worse.
You want. This film had me like shouting at the screen.
Yeah.
Straight from the off, I could see what was coming, and you can see the characters and how they will unfold. Like, for instance, the one character that is clearly going to be like, "Yeah, I'll back you up," and then you can see, and this is how well it's portrayed. You can see that he's not got the courage to back that statement up, and it had me shouting at the screen, going, they're not going to do it. You need to stop him, like, now. And once they start going through that process and they start setting up these things, you get emotionally involved with what's going on, and you really feel for Michael J. Fox's character, and you begin to really hate on like Sean Penn's character.
You almost feel duplicitous in the abduction as well, because you follow them from the conception of the idea of like, and Michael J. Fox is like, ha ha ha, this is funny, like almost like a joke, like you're not really going to do this, and it's. When it's actually happening, you feel like, because you're there with the platoon the whole time, and you're just like, this. It makes you feel uncomfortable watching it.
This is wrong. They shouldn't be doing this.
As it's actually building up to the rape sequence, which is really difficult to watch.
Very powerful, isn't it?
And very powerful. And I would also say that it's almost like the film score. It doesn't necessarily fit the genre of a war movie.
No.
Because it is like, it's almost panpipes and it's not your traditional war movie score, but the music really backs and emotes everything that's happening in the movie. You feel the despair that Michael J. Fox's character is going through, especially with the music score. It is phenomenal for this film.
The emotion given across from the girl the actress who's playing the girl, it's just so brilliantly portrayed. She's
so realistic that I actually, for a few instances, forgot that it was an actress that was performing this, because it felt so genuine.
Yeah, and she's coughing, she's ill, she's barefoot. They're dragging her through pretty much napalmed areas, and you can see her feet are getting blistered, and they're putting on full packs of ammo and rations and making her carry this stuff. And you, like Geoff said, you just want to reach into the screen, pull up a gun and fucking kill everybody else, but you can't. You have to sit there and watch, much like Michael J. Fox is. He's forced to accompany them, because it's like he says halfway through, what would he have done in that situation? Would he have wasted a sergeant and 3 other soldiers? He would have been then in enemy territory with a raped Vietnamese girl, which would have just asked for him just to killer.
And if he had gone back, he would have probably met the firing squad for his own troops anyway.
And I mean, the brutality, obviously after... spoilers, after they've dealt with the girl and they've returned to base, this for me is now the second part of the film, is Michael J. Fox's Ericsson's way of trying to
deal with it,
trying to bring it to justice. And it seems like everybody he goes to, explains to him that it's bad, but it's not as bad as what they're trying to deal with, which in a way is right, but then at the same time completely wrong. I mean,
his chain of command just does not give a shit.
Yeah, he goes to see his captain, played by the brilliant Ving Rhames, and Ving Rhames just starts the scene by telling him the story about how he was born and how his child was born.
On the day I was born, my mama grunted. I popped out, took one look around. Shit, I says. It's Two Creeks, Texas.
And then pretty much just explains to Ericsson, look, I'll split you up, but that's pretty much all I'm going to do. And then Ericsson brings it upon himself to go above his captains and go to the commander, played by the absolutely brilliant Dale Dye. And
he's an ass in this film, though.
he is an ass, but it's one of my favourite scenes, because you just see the realism on Michael J. Fox's face, because obviously he's an actor, but Dale Dye, being an actor and an actual soldier who's been in a lot of war engagements, is standing there screaming at Michael J. Fox that you can't tell me about screaming, because I've heard a lot of fucking screaming in this country, all from American soldiers, and basically just explains to him that one girl's death isn't going to make a difference, but you're stood there screaming at the TV like, yes, yes.
Maybe if you had been there, sir. Maybe if you had heard her screaming, you'd feel...
You don't tell me shit about screaming, boy! I've heard a lot of fucking screaming in this country. Most of it's come from wounded American boys.
It's something that sort of haunts the latter part of the film, and that's where he tells him, he's like, you bring this forward, and these guys, they're going to get a slap on the wrist. It's all you're going to do is blacken their careers. And then there's a very nice point in that scene where he reminds you that they're all 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
And you kind of psychologically forget that when you look at these soldiers, that they are so fucking young. Just kids dealing with the shit that's happening, haunted by the fact that they've lost their squad mates or their friends during this war in such a short space of time. And he tells them that if you were to bring this forward, you're going to have to watch your back, because your entire squad will be out to kill you.
Yeah.
Is this worth it? And you watch Michael J. Fox's haunted character throughout the next few scenes, trying to decide what, in this situation now, what is moralistically right or wrong. Should he look out for himself, or should he try and bring this to justice again? And it just seems like it's inevitably just going to be brushed under the carpet as another fuck-up of the Vietnam War.
You on my frequency?
Yes, sir.
You fucking maggot! Who the hell do you think you are? You're in that report recommending reserve for a Bronze Star. He pulled you out of a VC tunnel, boy. Now, this shit with that girl, that was wrong. But he's a kid, Erickson. He's 20 goddamn years old. And you're gonna ruin his life. He saved yours.
From the outset, you are agonising over this moral dilemma right alongside Michael J. Fox's character, and the film does not let up on you in being engaged in that moral dilemma. And, I mean, arguably, you could say that it's maybe, 2.5 hours of agonising, really. But that's what is so great about this film. It's a true story. The acting never, ever breaks you from the spell that you are really there with that company of five. And it never, ever lets up on you on that process of self-reflecting. It really puts you in that situation and causes you to question, what would I do if I was in that situation? And because of that, it is possibly one of the finest Vietnam movies, which brings over all the subtleties of the difficulty of the war on a grand scale by condensing it down to what was happening on an individual scale.
I think Michael J. Fox carries the burden of all of these things throughout the movie and expresses it fantastically, because we're so used to seeing him be this light, airy, friendly, totally approachable guy, to watching him look so hurt and so destroyed come the end of the movie. And I think it's also quite funny that when they were shooting some of the scenes, they had Sean Penn on the side, sort of shouting at Michael J. Fox and belittling him, telling him to go back to TV land where he belongs, because he doesn't belong with professional actors. And then Brian De Palma will go, action! And J. Fox will be like, oh.
It's so good. The acting is fantastic. Never once nobody's performance brought me out of the spell and made me think, oh, they're acting. You are there in Vietnam for the entirety of that film, even though it's not, like the score is not traditionally a Vietnam movie score, and the sets are not huge, elaborate. There are the odd nice pan scenes type thing of Vietnam, but by and large, it could have been any jungle anywhere in the world for the most of the scenes. But it's just brilliantly acted, and the characters enrapture you.
I always love that sequence where Erickson has been separated from the squad later on, and he's talking to his friend, and they're with that like convoy of villagers and soldiers coming out from that burning village. Yeah. I just love that whole dialogue sequence, because you have this new recruit bouncing around them like a rabbit. And he's asking them questions, and Michael J. Fox is trying to have this discussion with his friend, and they end up grabbing this rookie, and he's just like, if you keep fucking bouncing around here, we're not going to see you later on. And then 2 seconds later, the rookie hits a mine and falls into a spike pit, and you're just like, shit, that's the reality of this war, and of many wars, that you've got to keep your shit together, but you've also at the same time got to keep your humanity.
Absolutely.
I mean, just because each of us might at any second be blown away, everybody's acting like we can do anything, man. And it don't matter what we do. But I'm thinking maybe it's the other way around, Maybe the main thing is just the opposite. Because we might be dead in the next split second, maybe we gotta be extra careful what we do.
So I think my favourite scene from the film, it's just before one of the more grander action scenes in the film, and that's on the river with the long bridge, and they've reached the point where they're doing the reconnaissance now, and they're pinpointing where the enemies are, and the girl who is endured so much up until this point is gently coughing, and Sean Penn's just like, just kill her, just stick her with a knife, shut her up, whatever. Yeah. And she's desperately trying to stifle her cough. Michael J. Fox is desperately trying to keep her alive against the rest of his squad, and they're trying to keep her quiet. And it's that brutality where he's like, you kill her, you stick her, and none of them have got the guts to do it. Not even the captain has got the guts to do it.
Clark's got the guts.
But then you've got Clark, who is an honest-to-God fucking psychopath anyway.
He wants to do it. He's going to like it. He's going to do it and like it.
But that scene there was one of the most gut-wrenching sequences, and the sequence that follows it is it's going to make you feel ill. As the scene plays out. But just to bring it back to a lighter note, I like the scene where he's slapping John Leguizamo across the face and telling him to do it, because he was really slapping him across the face throughout that take. And they shot that take more than 14 times, and John Leguizamo has gone on record to say, it hit me every single time for every take and didn't hold back. And that was because the actors really felt their parts. They were giving genuine performances. They were their characters. They understood the subject matter they were dealing with and really invested into it to even portray these villainous American soldiers in that light.
Don't do it, man! Do it! Do it! Do it, you fucking piece of shit! Do it! Diaz! Diaz! Do it! Do it! Do it! Diaz! Do it! You don't have to worry about a coffin anymore, son!
What's your favourite scene, Geoff?
I don't know if it's really my favourite scene. I suppose.
Well, most memorable.
Yeah. It's hard to say it's a favourite scene because it is so gut-wrenching and so awful.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the pinnacle of the film is the rape scene. And I have to say that it was so well done. I'd say it's my favourite in inverted commas scene. It's one of the highlights of the film, which is where it's so well done, it's so well handled, and the crescendo to it is so engaging that when it actually happens, you know, you are right there, you are wincing alongside the whole act. And it wasn't gratuitous, yet it was sufficiently well presented that it didn't hold back anything. You know, you get to the stage where, you know, you are right there with Michael J. Fox, and you are feeling all the emotions that he's feeling: the anger, the disgust, the hatred, the shame, everything comes through in that one scene. And the fact that scene is so powerful and gives so many emotions to you is what makes it really one of the best constructed scenes in a film around, to be honest. It was very, very well done.
When was the last time you had a real woman, Sarge?
She was real. I think she was real.
I recommend that you watch Casualties of War. For all of the Vietnam War movies, I would say that this is possibly my least favourite of all of them, just because it is entertaining, but it takes you to a very dark place. And for the most part, when I watch my war movies, I like to be entertained. I also like the spectacle, and I also like the portrayal of these real people in these extreme situations. And Casualties of War, it does that phenomenally well. It's a very difficult film to sit through on repeated viewings, even though you know what's coming. And I think it's because it's so haunting, especially with the music, and especially with the ending. It's quite a dark ending, and it does sort of have a sort of odd upbeat kind of final few scenes, just because the film is so dark. If it left it on that low note, you probably would feel quite ill for days after feeling duplicitous in the events that unfold in it. And at the same time, you can't help but sympathise with the fantastic Michael J. Fox. So if this is a film that definitely belongs in any war movie collection, and if you've never seen it, you should definitely check it out, just so that you can put it there next to Full Metal Jacket and Platoon and all of the others. It's a great movie.
I highly recommend this movie. Unlike Gary, this is one of my all-time favourite war movies, mainly because just the portrayal of Erickson by Michael J. Fox, Meserve by Sean Penn, Hatcher, Clark, Diaz, Ving Rhames, Captain Dale Dye. These dialogue pieces and acting on screen is just so much more than a lot of the massive, huge battles you get through We Were Soldiers and Apocalypse Now and Platoon. Those are still brilliant war movies, and I will take nothing away from those films. But it's
I hate We Were Soldiers. I'm sorry.
it's just seeing Michael J. Fox do something other than the characters that we are so used to, that it does leave you with this haunting feeling. And by the end of the film, I sit there and I go, I can't watch that again for at least another year, and then I have to take it out again and say, you know what, it's time to watch Michael J. Fox and Sean Penn pull off an outstanding performance. It's absolutely brilliant.
Definitely the most realistic and perfectly balanced Vietnam War film out there. Definitely watch it.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
You think you down, man. You buku think you down.